Hello and welcome to this episode of Camera Tutorials. Today I want to show you a very simple basic approach to balancing most gimbals. There's been so many released over the last few years, they're all a little different, but the fundamentals are the same, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So for this example, I'm going to be using a DJI Ronin RS2 Pro and my handy dandy old-fashioned 5D Mark II because I'm using all my other cameras to shoot the video. I haven't balanced this camera before, so this is going to be a first time for both of us. Regardless of the model of gimbal that you have, almost all of them are going to have three main motors or three axes of rotation: the pan, tilt, and the roll. The first thing you want to do in balancing any gimbal is make sure that everything you're going to need for your camera is already on your camera. That includes making sure if you're going to use any filters or if you're going to use a lens hood or anything like that, you already have it attached to your camera. You want to make sure your battery is installed, you have a memory card. Most gimbals are going to have a sliding plate that you're going to attach to the bottom of your camera, and then they're going to have a balancing plate that slides back and forth on top of the gimbal. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just connect our camera to this mounting plate. And that's just going to be a little twist, but in general, every gimbal is going to be a little different. So don't take any of these specifics in mind unless you're actually using an RS2 Pro. We're going to slide our camera onto our gimbal. Now at this point, always keep a hand on the camera because things might not be locked. You don't want anything sliding off if you let it go, so just be aware of everything. A lot of gimbals are going to have multiple motors and multiple axes. You want to balance each one of these individually. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a gimbal that has locks on the motors and on the axes, you definitely want to engage all of the axes you're not using so that you can focus on one at a time. Now, the first thing we want to do is adjust our front to back balance. Now, if you're using a zoom lens, I recommend you set your zoom to about the midpoint. This is especially true if you have a lens that comes in and out of itself because that will adjust the balance of the gimbal. Now doing this is kind of a compromise so that neither long or wide end of your lens is too much of an extreme for the motors of your gimbal. So I like to split the difference. So we're using a 24-105, I'll put it, to roughly say 70. It doesn't always have to be the middle of your focal range. Think about it as the middle of the distance between the lens. So once that's in place, remember this camera's still loose, so be careful, and our gimbal is still loose. We're just gonna slowly start adjusting the front to back balance so that we can get to a point where the camera is no longer flopping forward or backward. It's pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and lock that position. So the next thing can be a little tricky. There is a vertical balance on the gimbal that's going to adjust for what I call drop speed. So if the gimbal starts to come out of balance just a little bit, see how fast that falls? If you go back too far, it falls too fast. What you can do to smooth that out and slow that drop speed is by actually adjusting the bottom shelf. So to do that, we're going to slowly, incrementally adjust the actual height of this. This can be really tricky and it can take a lot of very tiny incremental adjustments to get it just right. So you want to be patient and take your time with this. But once you find it, ideally you want your camera to be able to rest in a 45-degree angle up without totally falling backwards, or you want it to rest in a 45-degree angle down without it totally falling forwards. Point it down, point it up. That's pretty good. So the next thing we want to do is we want to look at our left to right action. So you can see it wants to fall a little to the left. Now for this, you have two options in terms of how to adjust this. Now, a lot of gimbals are going to have an adjustment here on the back side where you're going to be able to adjust this arm here and how it's going to slide left and right. Another thing you can do is physically slide the camera left to right on the sled, as there's sometimes little adjustments in this area here that'll allow for that. So if you're going to do a left to right balance on the camera body, just make sure that you don't move it too far to the left or to the right and not be able to open up the battery compartment, because you don't want to have to take off the camera to change memory cards or to replace a battery, because that sometimes means you have to go back and do a quick rebalance, which sometimes you don't have the time to do. So just keep that in mind. In general, if I'm happy with the placement of my camera on the sled, the next thing I will do is adjust this arm right here. So let's just center it up. If I were to let go of this camera, it's going to immediately just drop to the left. So that's no good. Now, if you have gimbal locks, another trick would be to lock the axis you've already worked with so it's not flying around on you while you're adjusting the balance. So we're going to focus on this balance right here. In order to do that with this gimbal, we're going to unlock the lock. It's falling to the left, so we want to slide it to the right. Sometimes when you're adjusting the position of the gimbal arms, they'll kind of bind and seize up on you and not let you be able to like easily slide the arms. If you take some of the weight off the camera, that'll allow you to more easily adjust these positions, and so they don't cinch on you. Okay, so let's go ahead. So we're falling to the left, so we want to slide to the right. Oh, now we're falling to the right, so we want to slide to the left. Okay, once we're done with the electric slide of the left and right balancing, we're going to lock that. Now we're down to our last setting. The pan axis also needs to be balanced. So if you take your gimbal and you have your feet here, your cross feet. If you take your cross feet, line them up so that they're in line with the bottom motor like this. And what we'll do is we'll lock this axis, like I said, so now the only axis that's unlocked is this one. So that's the one we're working with. If you line this up and then you just tilt the camera this way, it looks to me like right now, when we go forward like this, that we're back heavy. So what we'd want to do is we'd want to slide the camera forward just a little bit on this axis. See how that didn't move at all? There you go. So that should be a fully balanced gimbal. Remember, because it's one of the most important steps. So earlier I said make sure everything that you're going to be using on your camera is connected and plugged in and ready to go. And the reason for that is every little tiny cable matters. So let's say, for example, oh crap, I need to plug in a set of headphones. Just the weight of this cable is going to throw your whole gimbal out of balance. So if you're running a monitor that you need an HDMI cable ran from, even if it's this thin, it's still going to throw your weight off. If you need to put a timecode buddy or any other type of accessory, it's going to throw your weight off. And unfortunately, if you change your lens, it's going to throw your weight off. Keep that in mind. Have everything that you need plugged into your gimbal when you start. I appreciate your viewership and your subscriptions. If you'd like, please leave a comment in the section below about a video you may want me to make in the future. This kind of information really helps me know that I'm making the kinds of videos that you all find helpful and educational. Until next time, thanks for watching.